Imagine spending 7 years building a dream, only to find out your family claimed it without ever asking. Not for your birthday, not for your wedding, but for themselves. My name is Rachel, and this isn't just about a house. This is about the moment I realized I was just a footnote in their plans, and how I chose to rewrite the ending. If you've ever felt unheard in your own family, this story is for you. And if you find it powerful, don't forget to subscribe, because stories like these deserve to be told. Now, let me take you back to the moment it all began. You ever meet someone who tracks their life in spreadsheets? Like actual color-coded, tab-labeled, formula-driven spreadsheets? Well, that's me. My name is Rachel Moore. I'm 34 years old, I live in Austin, Texas, and I've been called everything from financially disciplined to emotionally unavailable. But the truth is, I just believe in building something real, something lasting. I've never been flashy, never needed the big purses or bottomless brunches, or overpriced avocado toast. While my coworkers racked up credit card points, I was setting up auto transfers to my savings accounts. Plural. I have 3. Account 1 housing. Currently sitting at $412,300. Account 2 investment. Around $97,000, mostly ETFs and a handful of blue-chip stocks. Account 3 emergency fund. $63,000. Untouched. Every dollar I made had a job. Every job had a purpose. Because I wasn't just saving money, I was saving myself. From a life I didn't choose. From expectations that were never mine to carry. From a future I wanted to design on my terms. I guess it all started when I was 15. My sister Samantha, 4 years older, always the star of the family, threw a tantrum because my parents said no to a spring break trip. 2 days later she got a plane ticket, a new suitcase, and my dad maxed out his card just this once. That night, my mom handed me a worn-out geometry textbook and said, "You're the practical one, Rachel. You'll understand." That's when I realized something. In my family there were dreamers, and there were doers. Dreamers got funded. Doers got forgotten. So I became a doer. Quiet, efficient, predictable. While Samantha partied through college, fully funded by my parents, I worked 30 hours a week just to afford community college. While she crashed in and out of relationships and came home with dramatic stories and surprise babies, I paid off my car loan early and bought a standing desk. People thought I was cold. I wasn't. I was focused. See, my dream was simple. A home. Not a house. A real home. With wooden floors that creaked in the morning. A garden where basil actually survived. A porch swing that didn't need to impress anyone. A space that was mine. But dreams, I've learned, aren't always dramatic. Sometimes they grow in silence. Mine grew in meal preps, skipped vacations, and secondhand furniture I refurbished myself. By the time I turned 34, I'd been saving for 7 years. 7. No shopping sprees. No exotic travel. No dating apps. I wasn't about to split rent with someone who thought budgets are boring. I worked as a financial consultant from home. My clients trusted me because I didn't just advise, I lived the lifestyle. I even had a column on a finance blog, The Quiet Wealth Diaries. Thousands read it. My family never mentioned it once. Then one morning in late March, while updating my net worth spreadsheet over black coffee and sunrise light, I realized something. I was ready. Not almost. Not maybe if I wait one more year. Truly deeply ready. I'd found a realtor. Started scouting listings. And then I saw it. A small cedarwood cottage just outside of Austin near Lake Travis. 2 bedrooms. A screened-in porch. A little garden bed already growing rosemary and lavender. Listed at $589,000. My fingers hovered over the trackpad like I was about to touch something sacred. It wasn't grand. It wasn't viral. It wouldn't end up on some glossy interior design blog. But it looked like a place where I could finally exhale. And after years of inhaling expectations that weren't mine, that mattered more than anything. So that night, I went to my parents' house for dinner. Sunday tradition. Roast chicken, awkward silences, and Samantha's kids screaming in the background while she scrolled through her phone. Nothing new. I wasn't going to say anything yet. Not until the contract was signed. But then while waiting for dessert, I pulled up the listing again just to look. Just to feel that flicker of joy again. Samantha caught the smile on my face. "What's that look for?" she asked. I tried to brush it off. "Just found a house I really like." Her eyes widened. My mother froze mid-slice of pecan pie. "You're buying a house?" she asked, voice careful, almost too careful. I nodded. "Yeah, I've been planning this for a long time." They didn't say anything for a moment. Not congratulations. Not even a curious where. Then my dad cleared his throat. "Is it big?" "Big enough for me," I replied. Another pause. And then my mom said something I'll never forget. "Well, I hope you're not rushing into something selfish." Selfish. That word. I felt it drop into my chest like a rock. I laughed a little, thinking it was a joke. But the look on her face said otherwise. Samantha chimed in too. "You know, the kids could really use some space. And we've been talking about moving out of our apartment. What if you got something with a few extra bedrooms?" The table got quiet. I looked around. I saw it then. The looks. The calculations. The quiet plans I hadn't been invited to. They had expectations. And my house? It wasn't just mine in their eyes. It was an opportunity. For them. They'd assumed. Without asking. Without talking. Without once thinking, maybe Rachel deserves a life that's just hers. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about real estate. It was about reclamation. This house wasn't a roof. It was a boundary. And I was done being the reliable one who never says no. That was the night I quietly decided something. I wouldn't just buy a house. I'd buy my life back. And this time no one was getting a copy of the key. You can always tell who the favorite is without anyone ever saying it out loud. You see it in the photos on the wall. You feel it in the way they pause just a second longer when she speaks. You hear it in the words they don't say to you, but they say to her. Samantha was my parents' son. Their golden child. She had the kind of charisma that made people lean in. Teachers adored her. Neighbors stopped by just to say hi to her. Even when she messed up, and believe me, she did, it was somehow a learning opportunity. For her. For me, it would have been, how could you disappoint us like this? When Samantha was in 5th grade, she sang a solo in the school musical. My parents brought flowers, clapped the loudest, took her out for ice cream afterward. When I was in 6th grade, I won the district-wide math competition. They forgot to show up. My mom said, "Oh, sweetie, you didn't tell us it was that important." That's when I stopped expecting applause. I started getting good at things no one noticed because it hurt less than hoping they would. Samantha got her first car at 17. A shiny blue SUV with a big red bow on top. The whole neighborhood came out to see it. When I turned 17, I got handed Dad's old sedan and a comment. "It still runs. Don't be picky." That car broke down 3 times in the first month. The thing is, I don't think Samantha even realized she was the favorite. She didn't ask for it. She just existed. Loudly. Beautifully. Brightly. And I existed quietly. She'd throw these big birthday parties, balloons, DJ rented backyards. I was the one taking coats at the door, helping Mom refill the punch bowl. I once overheard her telling a friend, "Rachel's great with stuff like that. She's like organized. Not smart. Not kind. Not someone with dreams. Just organized." It didn't stop when we became adults. Samantha got married straight out of college. Big wedding. 200 guests. My parents helped with the down payment on their first condo. When I landed my first real job after years of struggling, I took myself out to dinner. Alone. My mom called that night and said, "You're always so independent. We never have to worry about you." It was meant as praise. Felt like abandonment. By the time she was 30, Samantha had 2 kids and a messy divorce. She moved back in with our parents for a while. And slowly, the house began to revolve around her again. The fridge was filled with her kids' snacks. The living room turned into a daycare center. Every conversation was about her struggles, her growth, her strength. I brought homemade cookies one Sunday. No one touched them. When I shared that I'd been published in a national finance magazine, my dad nodded and said, "You've always liked numbers." And then turned to ask Samantha how her toddler was sleeping. I remember sitting there holding a cup of untouched coffee and thinking, this is what invisibility tastes like. So I stopped trying to impress them. I stopped sharing wins. I stopped measuring my life in milestones and started measuring it in peace. Every time I saw them praise her, excuse her, cover for her, I reminded myself, Rachel, you're not here to compete. You're here to build your own world. And I did. But even then, I never thought they'd try to take it away. Until I saw how quickly their praise turned to pressure when the dream wasn't convenient for them. You're the strong one, Rachel. You've always been capable. She really needs this right now. It was always the same refrain. Samantha needs. Rachel provides. Without complaint. Without asking for anything in return. One afternoon, about a week after I told them I was house hunting, Samantha called. Not to congratulate me. Not to ask about the neighborhood or the layout. She sent me a link. For bedrooms, she said. Close to the kids' school. And that kitchen. Perfect for Sunday dinners. You could host Thanksgiving this year. Host Thanksgiving. In a house I hadn't even bought yet. I told her I was looking for something smaller. Quieter. She didn't even pause. Come on, Rachel. You always think too small. This is a chance to finally do something big for the family. Big for the family. Not big for me. Not what I wanted. But what would serve everyone else. I stared at her text for a long time. I thought about the birthday parties I helped clean up after. The math medals no one framed. The promotions I never talked about. The apartment I made a home even if no one ever visited. And suddenly I wasn't just tired, I was done. I didn't reply. I didn't explain. Because I knew no matter how many rooms that house had, there would never be enough space for who I really was in their eyes. That night I started packing. Not boxes, but plans. And boundaries. And a new definition of family. Because if I didn't choose myself now, I'd spend the rest of my life living as a supporting character in someone else's story. And I was ready to write my own. There's something unnerving about realizing people have made plans with your life without including you in the conversation. It started with a text from my mom. I was sitting at my desk sipping mint tea, filling out pre-approval paperwork for the mortgage. The listing for the Cedarwood cottage was still open in another tab. I'd stared at that porch 100 times already, picturing tomato plants on the railing, wind chimes dancing in the breeze. Felt like a beginning. Then the ping. I spoke with Miss Karen from church, the message read. There's a beautiful house in Barton Grove. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and a backyard perfect for the kids. I'll send you the link. The kids. Not my kids. Samantha's. I stared at the message. Then the link. The house was enormous. It looked like something out of a suburban fantasy. Double garage, open concept kitchen, even a small playroom with built-in bookshelves shaped like clouds. My stomach sank. Within minutes, another buzz. This time, Samantha. You have to check this one out. It's near Ellie's new school. And it even has a home office for you. Plus 2 fridges in the kitchen. Like seriously 2. 2 fridges. 2 kids. 2 assumptions. I didn't reply. Not right away. Instead, I sat back and felt the walls of my apartment close in around me. Not because the space was too small, but because the pressure was suddenly too big. They had ideas. They had a vision. And none of it included asking me what I wanted. A few hours later, another call. Mom again. Sweetie, there's this house on Maple Street, she said, her voice light and bubbling. The owners are moving fast, so the price just dropped. Master bedroom with a balcony, plus 2 extra rooms for the kids. And a den. It's a steal. I swallowed hard. Mom, I said gently, I'm looking for something simpler. I don't need that much space. She didn't miss a beat. But you will. Someday. Or even just on weekends. Imagine how nice it would be for Samantha and the kids to come stay. There it was. No more guessing. No more subtle hints. It wasn't about a house anymore. It was about building a life that could accommodate theirs. And I knew right then that this wasn't random. The texts. The links. The urgency. It was a strategy. A quiet, polite, smiling plan to place my life in service of theirs. And I was the last to find out. That night, I opened a private folder on my computer and created a new document. Contingency plan. If they push. I listed steps. Call realtor privately. Secure pre-approval. Close fast. Keep address confidential. The next day, while I was on a Zoom call with a client, my phone buzzed 6 times in a row. All from Samantha. I'm sending over paint color ideas. Do you want bunk beds or trundles for the kids' room? Oh, found a deal on a family-size dining set. I didn't even own the house yet. But in her mind, I was already hosting Sunday brunch for 6. Later that week, I met with my realtor in person. We walked through the cedar cottage again. She handed me a printed layout. Most buyers hesitate at the second bedroom, she said. They want more space. Not me, I said. I want less noise. We laughed, but my heart wasn't light. There was weight there. A quiet morning for something I hadn't yet lost but could feel slipping. I made an offer that afternoon. Full asking price. No contingencies. 2 days later I got the call. You got it, my realtor said. It's yours. I felt like I won something sacred. And I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I wanted the keys in my hand first. I wanted to walk through that house and hear only my footsteps echoing off the wooden floor. No expectations. No conversations about breakfast nooks or toy baskets or visitor towels. I wanted silence. But the world doesn't give you peace just because you ask for it. You have to defend it. That weekend, I went back to my parents' house for dinner. The plan was simple. Keep the news quiet, avoid confrontation, eat the roast chicken and leave. But nothing ever goes as planned. While we waited for dessert, Samantha looked at me and said, So, did you see the Maple Street house? Mom said it's perfect. I smiled politely. I've actually found something else. My mom leaned in. But it doesn't have space, right? We just think. I bought it, I said. Silence. Last week, I added. I'm moving in at the end of the month. The room froze. Samantha put down her glass. You bought it? Already. My mom blinked. But we've been house hunting for you. My dad, who had been silent until then, finally spoke. Rachel, you're the only one in this family who's financially stable. Helping each other is what family does. I looked at him, then at Samantha, then at my mom. And in that moment something broke and something else solidified. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even the house. It was the fact that they'd written my future in invisible ink and handed me the pen only after they signed it. I stood up. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just said, I didn't buy a house for anyone else. I bought it for me. And no one, not even family, gets to move into my life without knocking first. And then I walked out. Into the night. Into my choice. And for the first time in years it felt like I was finally home. Even before I stepped through the door. There's a particular kind of silence that only happens in family dinners. It's not the peaceful kind. It's the kind where everyone chews slowly, too aware of what's not being said. Where the clink of a fork feels louder than a scream. And even the mashed potatoes seem to carry tension. That night, I stepped into my parents' house already knowing something had shifted. Not just in me but in them. Samantha was already there, sitting at the dining table, her kids running laps through the living room. Mom was in the kitchen, humming a little too cheerfully. Dad sat in his armchair, flipping channels with his usual disinterest. I placed a bottle of wine on the counter. I brought something, I said softly. Mom smiled but didn't look me in the eye. That's nice, sweetie. We all gathered at the table. Roast chicken, garlic rolls, Caesar salad. Everything familiar, comforting. But it tasted different. Like a meal prepared for a show, not for sharing. After a few minutes of small talk, it came. So, Samantha said, stabbing a green bean, have you had a chance to think more about that house near the elementary school? I took a breath. I already told you. I bought a house. It's not that one. A pause. Then she laughed. But you haven't closed yet, right? There's still time to change it. The Maple Street place is such a better fit. I set my fork down. I closed on it 2 weeks ago. Samantha blinked. Mom's face changed. You didn't tell us? She said, a little too sharp. We've been helping you search. No, I said. You've been planning for me. There's a difference. Dad chimed in. Rachel, let's be practical. You don't need all that space for yourself. But if you got a place where the kids could stay on weekends, or during school breaks. I looked around the table. No one was asking what I wanted. They were only trying to fit me into a blueprint they'd already drawn. Samantha leaned forward. I just thought, you'd want to do something meaningful with your money. I mean, you're the one who has it. I'm struggling. Mom and Dad are getting older. You're stable. You're the only one who can make this happen. There it was. The truth. I wasn't Rachel, the sister, the daughter, the woman who had worked for nearly a decade to earn her quiet dream. I was Rachel, the asset, the contingency fund, the walking wallet. And suddenly all the memories rushed back. The unpaid babysitting, the borrowed clothes never returned, the endless emotional support I gave without question, without thanks. I looked at Samantha. Did you ever once think to ask me what I wanted? She hesitated. I just assumed that I'd say yes, I cut in. That I'd bend. Again. Mom tried to step in. We've always done things as a family. We look out for each other. No, I said. You look out for Samantha. And I look after myself. And now, suddenly, because I've built something, I'm expected to give it away. Dad's voice dropped. You're being emotional. I laughed. Quietly. No. I'm being clear. There was a long silence. Then Samantha said, almost like it was an accusation. So what? You're just gonna live in that house by yourself? With your herbs and books and what podcasts? Her tone dripped with disbelief. Like solitude was a character flaw. Like peace was a luxury I wasn't entitled to unless it also benefited her. I looked at her. At all of them. And I said calmly, yes. That's exactly what I'm going to do. The room went still. Mom shook her head. You're turning your back on your family. No, I said. I'm turning my back on being used. Samantha's kids, thankfully unaware of the tension, were still playing with toy dinosaurs under the table. One of them knocked over a glass. It shattered. Water spilled across the tablecloth. No one moved. I stood. I spent years building a life that made sense to me. Quietly. On my own. And now that it's finally real, you act like it's a shared prize. Like my hard work is a group win. Dad looked like he wanted to argue. But he didn't. Samantha said, I thought family meant helping each other. Helping, I said, is mutual. This isn't help. This is assumption. Entitlement. No one said a word. So I pushed my chair back, grabbed my coat and stepped toward the door. Samantha called after me. You're breaking this family apart over a house. I stopped. Hand on the knob. It's not about the house, I said. It's about finally being old enough to know whose life I'm living, and who doesn't get to rewrite it. Then I opened the door. And I walked out. The night air hit me like a wave. Crisp. Cold. But for the first time in years, I felt warm. Because that was the moment I stopped asking for permission to protect my peace. And I never looked back. Some goodbyes don't happen with words. They happen in silence. In a screen that goes dark. In an email left unanswered. In a lock changed quietly while no one is looking. After that dinner, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't text a friend to vent. I just stopped. I went home, kicked off my shoes and sat on the floor of the apartment I'd lived in for 6 years. A place that had once been my cocoon. My retreat from a world that expected too much and offered too little. And I realized I'd outgrown it. Not because it was too small, but because I was no longer willing to shrink myself to fit into anyone's version of enough. So I powered down my phone. Not silent mode. Off. The kind of off that means, I'm unreachable. And that's intentional. Then I opened my laptop. Step 1. Request a number change from my carrier. Step 2. Deactivate my social media accounts. Step 3. Redirect all mail to the new address. The house. Mine. I wasn't going to announce it. No big family reveal. No group text with an address pinned to a smiling emoji. Just me, the keys, and a quiet start. The realtor called to confirm the move-in date. I chose a Monday morning. On purpose. Everyone would be working. School would be in session. There would be no chance for surprise drop-ins, dramatic goodbyes, or uninvited help. It would just be me, a moving truck, and the life I'd built, one spreadsheet, one sacrifice, one quiet decision at a time. I hired a small company, locally owned, 5 stars, nothing flashy. The foreman's name was Jason. He showed up with a calm smile and asked if I wanted to ride in the truck or follow behind. I followed. In my own car. Windows down. Playlist off. I didn't need a soundtrack. The sound of tires on asphalt was enough. When we pulled onto the tree-lined street in the town of Monroe, I felt it immediately. Peace. Real peace. The kind you can't fake at holiday dinners. The kind that doesn't come with passive-aggressive side comments or expectations you didn't sign up for. Jason unlocked the back of the truck. We started unloading. There wasn't much. A desk. A bookshelf. A few boxes labeled with words like herbs, journals, winter scarves. I had a nameplate for the mailbox. Not R. More. Just Ray. A nickname no one in my family ever called me. A name I'd used in online forums, in writing groups, in places where I got to start fresh. I liked the way it looked in simple black print, clean and quiet. By noon the furniture was in place. The fridge was humming. My tea kettle sat on the stove like it had always belonged there. I unpacked a single box. Books. Carefully, I placed them on the shelf in the corner. The Art of Solitude. Financial Feminism. Gardening for Beginners. It was a small library, but it told the whole story. Around 2 p.m. the doorbell rang. I froze. No one was supposed to know I was here. But when I peeked through the window, I saw a woman in her 50s holding a tray of lemon cookies. Grace. My new neighbor. She smiled and said, "Thought you might be too busy to bake." I laughed, a little stunned. We sat on the porch for a few minutes talking about flower beds and compost bins. She didn't ask where I came from, just what I planned to plant. That night, I sat on my porch swing with a cup of mint tea and listened to nothing. Not silence. Peace. 2 days later, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my full name in neat cursive. Inside, a handwritten note. Family shouldn't be abandoned over money. I didn't need to check the handwriting. It was Mom. I placed the letter in a drawer without reading the rest. Instead, I opened my laptop and typed a single sentence. It's not about money. It's about not making space for people who don't respect boundaries. I didn't send it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But writing it felt like planting a flag. This was mine now. My house. My space. My rules. I bought a tomato trellis the next morning. It was expensive and unnecessary, and I loved it. No one told me it was wasteful. No one asked if Samantha's kids could come play in the garden. I painted the office olive green. Hung a print that said, "Quiet is a form of strength." I joined a local gardening club. At the first meeting, no one asked about my past. They just asked what I wanted to grow. And for the first time in my adult life, I realized something important. I wasn't lonely. I was free. Freedom isn't loud. It's not about slamming doors or dramatic exits. It's in the quiet power of saying no, of choosing not to reply, of changing your number, of putting a new name on the mailbox, not because you're hiding, but because you're finally becoming someone you recognize. And the person I saw now in the mirror? She didn't owe anyone an explanation. It happened on a Tuesday. The sky was overcast, the kind of gray that makes tea taste better. I was sorting seed packets at the kitchen table, planning next season's garden like it was a sacred ritual. Everything was calm, predictable, mine. Then the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a moment I just sat there. The sound felt louder than it should have, as if it carried something heavier than a simple visitor. I walked to the door slowly, my breath catching without reason. Through the peephole I saw her. Samantha. Hair tied loosely. Face pale. And behind her, Ellie and Brandon. They stood quietly, not like children visiting family, but like guests who weren't sure if they'd be welcomed. I opened the door. No words yet. Just the cold air between us. "I wasn't sure I was still allowed to knock," Samantha said, voice quiet. Tired. I didn't answer. Ellie looked up. "Aunt Ray, Mom said if we were good, we could see your flower garden." She wasn't smiling. Just hopeful. I knelt down a little, brushing her shoulder gently. "I just planted chrysanthemums," I said. "White ones. Do you like those?" She nodded. I stepped aside. Not as an invitation, but not as a refusal either. They walked in like people who had lost something. Not a house, not a plan, but a relationship they never realized needed permission to begin with. We didn't talk much. The kids wandered the garden slowly, like they were afraid of disturbing something sacred. Samantha sat on the porch, hands wrapped around a mug I offered her. We sipped quietly. Then finally she spoke. "I thought you'd always just absorb it, the way you always did. That you were strong enough to hold the weight." I didn't look at her. I wasn't strong, I said. I was tired. She nodded. I know that now. A gust of wind passed between us. The porch creaked under our stillness. Then she said something that stayed with me long after she left. I was wrong to think blood gave me the right to walk into your life without knocking. We didn't call it forgiveness. We didn't hug. She didn't cry. But something passed between us that day. Not repair. Not erasure. Just recognition. 3 weeks later, I took Ellie and Brandon to the town book fair. They were loud and full of color again, like the weight had lifted just enough for them to breathe like kids should. Liam was there, running an art table for kids under a maple tree. He waved. I waved back. Nothing dramatic. Just quiet acknowledgement. Brandon asked for watercolors. Ellie sat down like she'd done it 100 times before. Liam looked over at me. These two look like they belong here. I smiled. Maybe they do. He didn't ask about Samantha. Or the house. Or the past. No one did. That's the thing about starting over somewhere new. People don't care what you escaped. They care what you're planting now. Weeks went by. Work was steady. Peaceful. One afternoon I got an email from HR. They were reviewing candidates for a new internal mentorship program. One name stood out. Samantha Moore. Her application included a reference letter, citing guidance from an independent advisor during a career transition. That advisor was me. She hadn't asked me to write it. She quoted something I once said in a blog post. Everyone deserves a fresh start, but you have to take the first step on your own. It wasn't about approval anymore. She was trying. In her way. Later that week, I found a note clipped to my gate. It was Ellie's handwriting. A little crooked. A little smudged. Aunt Ray, Mom's learning how to write resumes now. I help her. She still doesn't drink ginger tea the right way, but I'm teaching her. P.S. Did you plant more of those purple flowers? They smell like stories. I sat on the porch and read it 3 times. Did I forgive her? I don't know. But I didn't need to carry it anymore. Some wounds aren't meant to be fixed. Just understood. And sometimes forgiveness isn't a welcome mat. It's a closed door you choose to open a crack, not because you have to, but because you're ready. I still don't go to Sunday dinners. I don't return every message. I haven't invited Samantha into my home overnight. But the door isn't locked anymore. Not wide open. Just unlocked. Because family isn't about who shares your DNA. It's about who knocks. And waits. And learns that just because the door opens, doesn't mean they own the key. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to reclaim your space, your peace, your voice, consider subscribing to this channel. Because stories like this aren't just mine. They belong to all of us. And here we tell them gently. Honestly. With room to breathe. There's more coming. More stories about love, boundaries, rebuilding, and healing. Stick around. Your peace is worth protecting. And you don't need anyone's permission to begin.